Hello, welcome to the Lokniti podcast. Today we have a very special guest, UGC Chairman, Professor Jagadesh Kumar. So, sir, hello. How are you? I'm fine. So, in this very episode, we will discuss and try to decode the problem and challenges in the higher education system and how the national education policy will address those issues and what are the NEP's target, aims, plans, and what will be the government's outlook for the implementation. And what's your take on this? Can you give me a brief background about the education system, how it's evolving, how NEP will try to answer those challenges ahead of us, please?
You used the word education
Yeah, right.
in your opening remarks. Education is all about enabling our students to imagine and create. And for too long in our country, for thousands of years, learning has been given a top priority. And even today in our country, we have one of the largest educational systems in the world. We have close to 30 crore students,
Right.
and out of which 4 crore students are in higher education. Now, if you look at the students who have gone through this educational system, there are multiple ways in which you can view that. One is all of us, we have gone through the schooling and college system.
Yes.
And we have often seen that the education is more about cramming things, and education is more about sitting in the classroom and learning things. That is one aspect of our education system. In addition to that, our education system also is too rigid.
Right.
And if you look at the other side of our education system, whether it is in India or globally, Indians have done outstanding work in different disciplines, whether it is heading large corporations or multinational companies or putting Chandrayaan-3 on South Pole of Moon. Indians have done exceedingly well in spite of the fact that our education system is so rigid and it always focused on cramming things.
Right.
And not learning through experiential learning.
Sir, as you said, I would like to add a point that over the years we have created good labors. But do you think that we lack entrepreneurship in the country? That if I take an example, like people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, if they have been in India, someone like in the state of Chhattisgarh, they wouldn't have been Elon Musk or Bill Gates.
Right.
So that you talked about the rigidity. So what do you think that how it will be gonna shape up in the next coming year?
So what you are saying is about the two sides of the coin. So I have told you about one side of our education system, but the other side is our education system has also produced outstanding people, and they are working in India and also across the globe.
Right.
So this means that Indians are highly talented, they are aspirational, and our education system, in spite of the weaknesses that we have, it did help them in shining through their whatever professions they are working in. But the challenge now is that we want to create more such people. And that is possible only when we bring in reforms in our education system. Our education system is big and it can help people to shine in their professions. It can produce outstanding engineers, scientists, and other heads of global institutions. Can we scale it up? That is one challenge. The other challenge is that, as I said, we are now the largest country in terms of the population. And although we have now 30 crore students in our higher educational institution, this number is going to increase at a rapid rate because we have set a goal of increasing the GER to 50%.
Okay.
So therefore, we have multiple challenges in education. One, how do you make sure that our educational system gives a lot of freedom, flexibility, and choices to our students so that the people who can lead our country in different disciplines, whether it is science, technology, economy, agriculture, and in different disciplines, how can we help our students to be creative and innovative in different disciplines by bringing reforms? That is one challenge. The other challenge is our country is very diverse. We still have nearly 65% of our population living in rural areas, and 50% of our population is below 25 years. So how do I ensure that this high quality education reaches out to every student who wants to be a learner? So this is our second challenge. Now, keeping these two in our mind, in 2022, we launched the NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020. The primary idea of the National Education Policy is to design our education in such a way that the learning outcomes of the students are enhanced, and to design our educational system to suit the needs of every student, because students have different cognitive abilities, they have different financial capabilities and different needs and aspirations. So how can we personalize our education to meet the needs of each and every student? And the third important objective is, how do I provide this learning outcomes based personalized education to a large number of students on a mass scale? And that's the reason why NEP 2020 is bringing out a lot of reforms, not just only in higher education field, but also in the school education, because these two are interlinked.
So you talked about two things I'd like to point out. The gross enrollment ratio. At the current level, like recent data shows that it's 27.1%, which is among the world's lowest in the higher education. So how NEP will address this issue, this challenge particularly? And then the diversity, like you talked about the quality of education in the top tier, but also in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So how we will be able to promote those universities, those students to come up at the same level of the students at the top tier institutions? So
correct. So the approach has to be multidimensional. One, we need more educational institutions. In the last several years, there is a rapid rise in terms of the number of institutions that are being established, be it IITs, AIIMS, new universities, deemed to be universities and colleges. A number of them are coming up. And the other important thing that we need to do is, as I said, we need to provide a lot of flexibility to our students. Let me give you the meaning of this, why we need to give this flexibility. And also, the education has to be multidisciplinary. Right. So recently, I was talking to a group of students. So I asked them, I will give you two choices, choice A and choice B. The choice A is, you have a choice to be like a pure metal, let's say iron. Okay. Choice B, you have a choice to be like steel. How do you make steel? By mixing chromium, magnesium, steel into pure iron. Okay. So students said, no, we would like to be a steel. Because steel has more applications, whereas iron is ductile, it can get corroded very easily. So it has limited applications. So what does that mean? Students want multidisciplinary education. They don't want to be super specialists, pursue the same subject from school to undergraduation to post-graduation to PhD levels. They don't want to be super specialists. They want to acquire multidisciplinary education. And it is also a need of the hour, because if you look at the kind of jobs that came 30 years ago, you could predict what kind of new jobs will come. But today, after 1 year, 2 years, what kind of new jobs will come, we cannot really predict. So that means you need to be prepared by having multidisciplinary knowledge. So this is something that we need to do. Okay. And the third one, you said that students have different financial abilities, they come from different kinds of social backgrounds. So how do you make sure that education reaches out to them? One is, of course, by building more institutions. The other one is by using technologies. Today we are all talking about artificial intelligence. Right. Using artificial intelligence using the existing digital technologies, we should take high quality education to the doorsteps of the students. And then I also want to add one more thing here. When we talk about education, we have a fixed idea. Education means I need to go to a college, sit in the classroom, listen to the teachers, write the exams and get a degree. That is the general understanding of education. But now in national education policy, we are saying that learning can be through different modes. It doesn't have to be only by coming and sitting in the classroom. While that mode of education goes on, you can also have a hybrid mode. For example, certain lectures I will attend sitting physically in the classroom, but certain lectures I will attend through online means. There can also be another way of learning. I am not in the formal education system. I want to informally study at my home. Can we recognize this prior learning that happens without coming in touch with the formal education system? So the national education policy is looking at all these kinds of modes of learning and assess them and creditize this learning so that once the credits reach certain threshold level, the students can be given a certificate, a diploma or a degree so that they can move forward in their life.
Sir, what will be the adaptability of this new education system? Right. Does the universities which are in rural areas of the country and students coming from the something backward community or classes,
right.
So will they be able to adjust to those changes that you earlier mentioned that our education system is very rigid, so that rigidity can be broken by the NEP or
right. So one of the rigidities is about our idea of the mode of learning. Now we want to break that mode of learning. You can use any mode of learning to become creative and innovative. That is one. The other one is that when students are in the rural area, you said, are they ready to adapt?
Yeah.
I think we are underestimating the potential of our young people. They are highly aspirational, they are highly talented. It is just that they lack the opportunities.
Right.
And the national education policy is aiming at providing these opportunities to the students. I'll give you one example.
Cool.
Let's say I'm studying in a rural college and I have enrolled myself in BCom.
Okay.
And at the end of second year, I have a family problem. I want to take a break. Go and work in my father's business, and then after a year or two, I want to come back and continue my education. The current educational system doesn't permit that,
yes,
and that's the reason why we have now introduced, following the guidelines of NEP 2020, multi-entry and multi-exit schemes. So at the end of 2 years, I can take a break, come within 2 years and complete my education so that I get my degree. Now, there is an additional thing that we want to do it here by introducing this multi-entry, multi-exit scheme. One is the concept of failure. You know, in all our minds, we think that if somebody has failed in 10th class or 12th class or in degree, we think that is a failure for life.
Right.
Because our system is like that. On the other hand, there can be only winners and learners. There is nothing like a failure. So we want to remove this stigma associated with failure.
And the losers.
And being labeled as a loser. There is nothing like a loser. So our hope is that by bringing these kind of reforms, by changing our mindset about the idea of learning, more and more students will come into the educational system. So from this perspective, I see that a lot of students who are in the rural areas or who come from the rural background will be highly benefited.
Right. So one more new thing which NEP has introduced is introduction of foreign universities, campuses in India.
Right.
So recently UGC released the regulations and guidelines. So there's much of news about it now, and we have seen that in universities like Australian University of Western Sydney, it's also coming in the Bangalore.
Right.
So, what do you think that how it will be beneficial for the students of India? Because certain data is there that students opting for higher education abroad rose from 4.4 lakh in 2016 to roughly 18 lakh by 2024.
Right.
So, this will be cut down, and the brain drain, what we usually talk about, that our resources being used, our brain by the foreign companies, and India is lacking behind in somewhat in the research or innovation.
Right.
So what will be the change with you?
I think the idea of brain drain is now out of fashion. It is out of date because many of our Indians who are working across the globe, they are a pride of our country. Our Indian diaspora has been doing very well across the globe, right? So there is nothing like brain drain, because they are our asset. They take our culture, they take our knowledge, and they are the real ambassadors of our country. And the other issue of students going abroad, naturally, students, they would like to have access to high quality education wherever it is available. So therefore, on one side, we need to make sure that high quality education is available in our country. And that's the reason why we are bringing in so many reforms to strengthen our educational system, for the capacity building of the teachers, and for bringing in new curricular aspects so that this freedom, flexibility and choices are provided to our students. Now, in spite of doing all these reforms and improving the quality of education in our country, you will always have some students who would like to go abroad.
Right.
And ours is a democratic country and people can make free choices. So therefore, they will continue to go. And the numbers perhaps will increase in the coming years because our overall educational system also is growing in numbers. But there will always be some students who may not like to go to a foreign country, but they want to access the high quality international education while being in India. This is one aspect. The other one is, let's say there are some foreign universities and there are some Indian universities. They want to have close research collaborations.
Right.
And don't you think if they are physically located within India, their campuses, it will be much easier for them to collaborate with each other. So this is another thing. And the third point is that there are always some students who may not be financially as sound as many other students who can go abroad. Because when you go abroad, there are different kinds of expenditure one has to incur.
Right.
One is the huge tuition fee, and two, it's the living cost.
Right.
And the third also is that you are staying away from your family for longer durations. Can you come for every festival to your home? You cannot come. You will come maybe after a year, after 2 or so. Now, considering all these factors, NEP 2020 also advocates to internationalize our Indian education, to bring this international dimension to our Indian education.
Making India a global education hub, what we can say.
Right. One of the aims of internationalization is not only to bring foreign universities to our country, to also encourage our institutions to go abroad and set up their campuses. So it has to be a two-way flow. And that's the reason why a couple of IITs like IIT Delhi, it is setting up its campus in Abu Dhabi. And IIT Madras is starting their undergraduate programs in Tanzania, where there is a large Indian population also. So both ways it's happening. So this internationalization also is one of the reforms suggested in NEP 2020. And then the other factors looking from the student's perspective. So we are inviting now foreign universities to come and set up their campuses. And in the long run, it's going to be highly beneficial for our country because it can strengthen the research ecosystem through better collaborations and also through competition, right? And that's the reason why we have announced these regulations. And in the last 6 months, many foreign delegations met us at UGC, and they have expressed a serious interest to establish these campuses in our country, primarily for one important reason. That is because India has huge human capital.
Right.
So
It's a good
this
market.
human capital, providing good opportunities, this human capital is not only beneficial to our country, but even globally, it will be beneficial to everybody, because ultimately in future, as many Western societies are aging, and where there is a need for younger people, younger workforce, and also highly skilled workforce, India is going to be a hub for providing these human resources across the globe. So therefore, bringing these foreign universities to our country and asking them to establish their campuses here, and also encouraging our institutions to go abroad, is a win-win situation for everybody.
So you talked about the collaboration with the Indian universities and industries. So do you think that they only collab with the top Indian institutions, because and they will, if they are coming to India, they will try to set up their campuses in the tier 1 cities, in the metro cities, what we can say in Bangalore, Gujarat. But how it will benefit at large scale the tier 2 and tier 3 students, that okay, they are coming up in India for institutions, but they will be largely setting up their campuses in the metro cities.
Right.
So that bunch of students will be left behind. And one more thing, that affordability will be also an issue, because like as I can see, autonomy to foreign institutions has been given by the UGC for deciding their fees.
Now, our institutions also have a lot of autonomy. Right.
So in regard to the foreign institutions, autonomy has been given, academic, administrative and financial things. So would it be affordable? I want to know that those campuses coming to India, will they provide affordable education to our students, and then the equivalence of the degrees? That's also a burning topic.
So you have packed 2-3 points in one single question. One thing you said is, when these foreign universities come and set up their campuses, they will perhaps collaborate with the best institutions in our country. So if that is the case, then the other institutions also will try to become the best institutions, so that they can collaborate with each other. So it's a positive impact for our institutions. And the other point that you raised is, if they establish their campuses only in metropolitan cities and big cities, will it help the students come from tier 1, tier 2 institutions and rural areas? It does help, because today, even in our central universities, for example, after we have introduced CUET, we have seen a sharp increase in the number of students who are coming from the rural areas, from tier 1 and tier 2 institutions. So if you provide a level playing ground, I'm sure students will come from across the board. All right. So this is one. And the third one, you said, will it be beneficial for the students who come from the socio-economically weaker sections? So in order to address this issue, what we have done in our regulations is, we have introduced 2 clauses. One is, we are asking these campuses to provide both partial and full scholarships to our Indian students. And these are need-based scholarships, not merit-based scholarships. Right? And 2, we are also asking these institutions to provide tuition fee concessions. And during informal talks, many of these institutions have also said that they will give a significant amount of tuition fee concession for Indian students who join in these campuses, because these campuses can admit students from across the globe. But Indian students will get few concessions, tuition fee concessions, and these clauses are included here. So overall, it will address the aspirations of a wider cross-section of our Indian students.
So you missed the equivalence of the degrees. The foreign universities will uphold the same value what they will provide, like the Indian institutions provide. And what's your take on
equivalence? Is something that UGC is taking very seriously. There are 2 kinds of equivalences that are required. One is, if a student studies in a foreign university, when they come here, somebody has to say that it is equivalent to the degrees in India. And the campuses that are going to be established in India by the foreign universities our students, although they are studying in India, they will in fact be getting foreign degrees.
Yes.
So if they want employment in India, the issue of equivalence will come.
Right.
And the other equivalence also is important. What is it? Let's say a student who has studied in an Indian institution and that student is applying to a foreign institution elsewhere. That foreign institution may not know whether this is equivalent to their degrees. So to take care of both these kinds of equivalence, UGC is going to come up with a new regulation.
Okay.
And this regulation, through this regulation, using an online process, any student, whether the student is a foreign degree holder or whether the student is an Indian degree holder, they can apply on our online portal, and within a given duration, we will find out the equivalence and provide it to the student.
Sir, you earlier talked about the importance of research and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So despite we know the critical importance of research, research and innovation investment in India is just 0.69% of our GDP,
Mm-hmm.
whereas in US it's around 2.8%. In South Korea it's 4.2%.
Right.
So do you think that in the new education policy, national education policy, we should be giving more importance to the research innovations and more of a push from the private sector also? Like government is pushing,
Right.
they have some research and scholarships and other things, but private sector is lacking behind in this. So how do you see it?
So if you look at the research publication output from India, it has gone up phenomenally.
Okay.
Now we are third largest in the world in terms of the research output.
Okay.
But however, whether this research output is of high quality is reflected in terms of how many of our papers, our work is being cited globally. And that is definitely a cause of concern for all of us. We need to improve on that factor. But that can happen only when we prepare our educational institutions to be competitive in research, because research funding is always competitive.
Right.
Nobody will give you on a platter huge fund and say you do the kind of research that you want to do. It's always competitive. So to address this issue, as part of the NEP 2020, now what we are doing is we are encouraging the institutions to establish research and development cells.
Okay.
More than 700 universities have already established these centers. The idea of these centers is multifold. One, to educate our faculty members, to train our faculty members to write successful project proposals.
Okay.
And also to train our faculty members, even if I get a project fund, I need to know how to run this project, how to manage this project. And after I complete the objectives of the project, when I have certain results, how do I convert these results into a prototype so that ultimately it can become a product? So all these kind of capacity building has to be done in our university system. And this is happening. And in terms of the innovation, innovation is all about adding value to your ideas, right? And today, if you look at what is happening in the innovation area in India, we are third largest country now in terms of the startup companies.
Right.
The startup ecosystem has become very stronger in our country. That means our younger people are very innovative. Yeah. But then, if you strengthen the ecosystem by bringing in all these reforms in the higher education, if you do the capacity building of the teachers so that they adopt the 21st century pedagogical approaches, then you can see we are now fifth largest economy in the world. So soon we will become the third largest economy, and we will become one of the top countries in the world. So this has to be a multidimensional approach, and that's the reason why recently Government of India has also announced the National Research Foundation. Yeah, awesome. And the primary objective of this NRF is to involve industry in the research and innovation activities of our country, and also strengthen the research ecosystem in our universities. Because for too long, and it's for good reasons, we have funded our IITs and other institutions of national importance, and they have done outstandingly well.
Right.
But if you look at the number of students who are in these institutions of national importance, it's only 6% of the total 4 crores. The remaining 94% are actually in our university system and in our college system. And NRF aims to strengthen our universities and colleges through competitive bidding for project funds in diverse areas. It could be in STEM areas, it could be in social sciences, it could be other technological areas. So there is a multi-pronged approach to strengthen our research ecosystem, and the results of this will be seen in the coming years.
Sir, I want to know about the implementation of the national education policy, because we have seen several states of the country like Karnataka, Kerala are opposing the implementation of new education policy. So what's their idea? What's their back in the mind, like what they are facing the issues or what they are not liking about the policy? Because we have seen the certain positives and we are seeing coming in. They are bringing into the results, like for universities, campuses coming to India.
Okay.
So what's your take on this? Like why they are not implementing? Like why
just for discussion's sake, let us assume that you are a state who is opposing NEP 2020. In your state, you don't want to implement NEP 2020. Now I want to ask you, when NEP 2020 says that you can introduce 4-year undergraduate program, and in the rest of the country we are introducing this, and there are a lot of benefits to the students in this 4-year undergraduate program. So as a state which is opposing NEP 2020, will you continue to oppose this? Can you afford to oppose NEP 2020? Then the students in your state will lag behind. Right. And they are part of our country. They are our students. Right? There is nothing like students from this state or that state. They are all our students. So how can we let a section of our own students lag behind when the rest of the country is getting the benefit out of that? Similarly, I will give you another example. Suppose we give a level playing ground to our students by introducing common university entrance test, so that any student, irrespective of in which board they are studying, they can compete in CUET and get admission in best of the university. As a state opposing NEP 2020, will you oppose? I'm sure you will not. And let me also give you another bit of information to you. Among the 5 southern states, Kerala has the largest number of students participating in CUET. Okay. Right? And a chief minister of a state, said that we don't want to let our students lag behind. We want to introduce the 4-year undergraduate program. And you will be happy to know that nearly 200 state universities, and many of them are state universities, they have introduced the 4-year undergraduate program. And similarly, National Curriculum Framework is something that we have launched, and this will provide a lot of freedom to the students to change from one discipline to the other discipline.
On this thing, like changing the disciplines to like what it actually means.
Right. So in National Credit Framework, what we have done is we, right from the school education to the higher education, we have divided the education into levels. Okay. So level 1 to level 4 is the school education, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And from the first year of the college or university education to the PhD, and that is called a level 4.5, which is equivalent to the first year of your BA, let's say BSc, and level 8 is the PhD. Okay. And at every level, the student is required to acquire a minimum number of credits. Okay. We said 20 credits per semester one has to acquire. Okay. But when you acquire the 20 credits, we are also defining what should be the learning outcomes at the end of every semester, so that the student can progress from one level to the other level, accumulate these credits in the academic bank of credit, and once you earn the required number of credits, you get the corresponding qualification. For example, for a 3-year undergraduate program, we said you need to acquire at least 120 credits. And as I am progressing in my educational journey, when I achieve 120 credits, then I will ask my university, I want to now exit out of the education. Please give me a 3 years undergraduate program. So this is one. And the National Credit Framework also has introduced the multi-entry, multi-exit scheme. For example, at the end of second year, I find that I am from a tier 2 college, let's say.
Okay.
And I suddenly find that in a central university or in one of the best state universities, I find that in third year there are some vacancies. So I can now go and approach that university. You have some vacancies and I have completed these many credits. Please examine whether I can be admitted in the vacant seats of your third year. Okay. So this is the kind of mobility that we want to provide to our students, and all the universities are now working on implementing these kind of mobility opportunities for the students from one institution to the other institution. And the other important flexibility that we have provided to our students in our National Credit Framework and also in the PG curriculum framework that we have just announced today, that students can actually design their own degree. So we are now asking our students, design your own degree. This is the curriculum framework, and these are the number of credits that you need to acquire at the end of third year or fourth year. Now you choose and pick the subjects that you want to do. And that's the kind of freedom and flexibility that we need to provide to our students. I'll give you an example. So a student who is doing undergraduate program may like to take biology as the major subject.
Okay.
But in the minor subject, the student may like to study data science, because today computational biology is becoming very, very important. Now these two are two different areas. Or a biology student may like to study international relations.
Correct.
You know, when you talk about this biological warfare, geopolitics and all that, a person with biology knowledge and international relations will become a person with a lot of knowledge in that area. So when we provide these kind of flexibility as a state opposing NEP 2020, would you like your students to tell, no, you study only physics throughout, don't acquire any multidisciplinary knowledge, you will not do that. So that is the reason why when we go around the country and talk to the vice chancellors and the students and so on, we see the aspiration I can see in the eyes of the students. I can see the enthusiasm in the heads of the institution's eyes that they want to implement NEP 2020 as quickly as possible. But however, there can also be challenges, because the challenges can come either because there is a lack of awareness, or some institutions may think that they are not yet ready to introduce. So that is where, as a regulator, we play an important role. Sit with these institutions, understand at the ground level what are the challenges that they have, what are the clarifications that they need, and then handhold them so that many of these reforms can be rolled out quickly. And to help them, therefore, what we have done, we have divided the country into 5 zones. And northern zone, western zone, southern zone, central zone, east and northeastern zone. And in each zone, we are calling the heads of institutions, of all the institutions there in that zone, and have a dialogue with them, have a brainstorming, so that we mutually understand the challenges that need to be overcome to implement the NEP 2020 rapidly. And I can tell you with confidence that the NEP 2020 is being implemented with a lot of enthusiasm across the country.
So do you see some political actors are playing role to not roll out the NEP in the country? Because if they vote out, they get elected, then they can somehow what we can say, opinion को थोड़ा सा modify कर देते हैं या translate it into the different things, because we have seen something in the farm laws also. They were the good intention, but then carried out in some other ways, and then people took it, and the community basically took it in a different way. So in the particular states like Kerala, we have the highest literacy number. Like students are, or the masses are not so much of in that level or the illiterate at terms of Bihar. So if the state actors are opposing the NEP, so how the masses are taking it? That's what I want to know.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Let's say our young people want to become creative and innovative.
Right.
Our young people want to take our country forward in terms of technological advancements. If our young people want to strengthen our economic system, build sustainable practices in our country so that as a society all of us are benefited, tell me which person will
Right.
oppose this, which person wants, no, all this should not happen, we should remain as an underdeveloped country. There is nobody in our country who will say that. In fact, as a country, we have set a goal to become a fully developed country by 2047.
Right.
And during this Amrit Kal, when the entire country wants to develop our country as a fully developed country, tell me who will stand in the way and stop this?
Right.
Right. So all of us want a good educational system in our country, and our younger people have enormous potential.
Right.
And we need to ensure that they can function at the best of their potential. And education, good education, will provide that opportunity.
So thank you so much, sir, for joining us in this very episode and for giving such thoughtful insights. And
Thank you.
we hope to see that NEP roll out soon, and we can see all the benefits to get by all our students. So thank you.
And I also would like to thank you for providing UGC this opportunity to tell our younger people about NEP 2020 and how their aspirations will be fulfilled if NEP 2020 reforms are implemented on fast track mode. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.